In the quiet hours when the world falls away and you're left with only yourself, have you noticed how tightly you hold on? How the muscles of your mind strain and grasp at what you desire? You reach, and yet the very thing you seek seems to drift further with each desperate attempt to claim it. The greatest paradox of creation lies hidden in plain sight. The more intensely you strive, the more resistance you create. Consider the flower that doesn't force its bloom, yet manifests in perfect timing. The river that doesn't push against the stones, yet carves canyons through mountains of resistance. What if everything you've been taught about achievement and manifestation has been backwards? What if your ceaseless effort, the grinding, the pushing, the endless doing, has actually been the very obstacle standing between you and your desires? I speak to you now in these gentle moments as your breathing slows and your mind begins to settle. There exists within you a power so profound, so effortless, that it creates worlds without strain. This power doesn't need your anxiety, your tension, your constant vigilance to function. In fact, these very energies block its natural expression. In the coming passages, we'll explore what it means to truly allow rather than force, to become the conscious witness to creation rather than its exhausted architect, to understand why your desires manifest not through the sweat of your brow but through the surrender of your assumptions. The ancient truth whispers to us across time: what you seek is seeking you. Your manifestations aren't waiting for more effort, they're waiting for your acceptance. They're waiting for you to step out of your own way. As your eyes grow heavy and your mind drifts towards sleep, let this thought settle into the soil of your consciousness. Perhaps you've been trying too hard all along. Perhaps what you seek requires not your strain but your surrender, not your doing but your being. Rest now in this awareness as we begin to explore the sacred art of effortless creation, the divine paradox that has existed since consciousness first emerged from the void. The less you struggle, the more you receive. The less you force, the more naturally your desires flow to you. Your manifestation journey transforms the moment you realize this truth. The universe doesn't respond to your effort, it responds to who you are. Have you noticed the weight of exhaustion that comes with constant doing? The heaviness that settles in your shoulders, the tightness across your chest, the subtle but persistent anxiety that whispers you haven't done enough. This is the burden of effort, the price we pay when we believe creation requires our strain. Think of how you approach your desires. The job promotion, the relationship, the financial abundance, the perfect home. You plan and strategize. You make lists and set deadlines. You push yourself beyond comfort, believing suffering somehow makes you worthy of receiving. You mistake motion for progress, activity for advancement. And in those rare moments when you pause, when you momentarily cease the endless doing, guilt rushes in to fill the space. The voice that says you should be working harder, doing more, proving your worthiness through perpetual action. But what if this belief that manifestation requires your strain is the very illusion keeping you from experiencing the life you desire? Consider how a child falls asleep. They don't force slumber through effort or will. They simply allow themselves to drift, to surrender to the natural rhythm that already exists within them. Sleep comes not through doing, but through the cessation of doing. Your desires work in much the same way. They aren't waiting for your perfect strategy or exhausting effort. They're waiting for you to align with their natural emergence, to allow rather than force their expression in your life. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches. When you strive and push, notice the constriction, the tightness, the subtle resistance that forms. Now imagine simply allowing your desire to unfold, trusting in the perfect timing of its expression. Feel the expansion, the openness, the gentle release that comes with surrender. This is not laziness or apathy. This is conscious alignment with the natural laws of creation. The oak tree doesn't strain to grow from the acorn. It simply allows the blueprint within to unfold according to divine timing. As you drift deeper into relaxation, consider what areas of your life carry the heaviness of effort. Where are you pushing against the current rather than flowing with it? Where might surrender serve you better than strain? Let your breath deepen as you release, even if just for this moment, the belief that your desires require your exhaustion. They don't. They never did. They simply await your alignment with who you already are. Nature speaks in whispers of effortless creation, if only we would listen. The seed doesn't force its way through soil. It surrenders to an intelligence greater than itself, allowing its transformation. The tide doesn't struggle to reach the shore. It flows in perfect harmony with forces beyond its control. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. These ancient words reveal the forgotten wisdom of effortless manifestation. The lilies, perfect in form and expression, achieve their magnificence not through strain, but through alignment with the creative force that flows through all things. Have you watched a master musician at the height of their artistry? There comes a moment when they no longer play the instrument, they become the instrument. Technique dissolves into pure expression. Effort melts into flow. The music plays through them rather than by them. This same principle governs the manifestation of your desires. When you struggle and strive, you stand outside the natural flow of creation, attempting to force what could simply unfold. You position yourself as separate from your desires rather than one with them. The animals don't attend seminars on how to be wolves or eagles or dolphins. The stars don't read books on how to shine. The rain doesn't practice falling. All of creation expresses itself perfectly without the burden of effort, not because it's lazy, but because it remains aligned with its true nature. What is your true nature? Beneath the conditioning that taught you to equate struggle with worth, who are you? When you peel away the belief that manifestation requires your strain, what remains? You are in your essence an expression of the same creative force that spins galaxies and orchestrates the dance of subatomic particles. This force doesn't strain to create, it simply expresses what it is. And so it is with you. As sleep begins to embrace you, as your thoughts slow and your body releases the tension of the day, imagine what it would feel like to create as nature creates, without effort, without strain, without the exhaustion of trying. Imagine your desires unfolding with the same natural perfection as a flower opening to the morning sun. This isn't fantasy, it's the forgotten reality of who you truly are. You were never meant to force your manifestations through clenched teeth and furrowed brow. You were meant to allow them to witness their natural emergence as expressions of your consciousness. Rest in this awareness as the weight of effort gradually dissolves. Your desires don't require your strain. They simply await your natural alignment with what already is. The mind has become addicted to effort. It has been conditioned to believe that value emerges only from struggle, that worthiness comes only through strain. Notice how uncomfortable it feels to consider that your desires might manifest without your exhaustion. The mind resists this concept because it has built its entire identity around the necessity of effort. Think of how often you've said, "I'm working on it," or "I'm trying so hard" in relation to your manifestations. These phrases reveal the underlying belief that creation requires your labor, that manifestation demands your struggle. The mind has become so accustomed to this paradigm that it feels almost irresponsible, even dangerous, to consider an alternative. But this addiction to effort creates a particular kind of blindness. When you believe that manifestation requires your strain, you become incapable of recognizing the evidence of effortless creation that surrounds you. You dismiss your natural abilities as flukes. You attribute your synchronicities to coincidence. You ignore the moments when your greatest achievements came not through force but through flow. Remember a time when something wonderful came to you easily. Perhaps a perfect opportunity appeared just as you needed it. Maybe a relationship unfolded naturally without the usual games and strategies. Or possibly an insight arrived fully formed in a moment of quiet, solving a problem you'd been struggling with for weeks. In these moments you weren't making it happen, you were letting it happen. You weren't forcing, you were allowing. You weren't trying harder, you were surrendering deeper. The mind resists these examples because they threaten its fundamental belief system. If manifestation can occur without effort, then what happens to the identity built around striving? If creation flows naturally when you step out of the way, then what becomes of the self that defines its worth through constant doing? As your consciousness drifts between wakefulness and sleep, notice the resistance that might arise to this concept of effortless creation. Notice the subtle fear that whispers, "If I stop trying so hard, everything will fall apart." This isn't truth speaking, it's addiction. The same voice that tells the smoker they need one more cigarette, that convinces the workaholic one more hour at the office will finally bring fulfillment. What would it feel like to release this addiction? To allow your nervous system to recalibrate to a new way of being? To trust that creation continues even when you cease your striving? Breathe into the discomfort of this possibility. The mind's resistance doesn't make the principle untrue. It simply illuminates how deeply the illusion of necessary effort has embedded itself in your consciousness. Your desires aren't waiting for more effort. They're waiting for you to break this addiction, to surrender to the natural flow of creation that has always been your birthright. The sacred text whisper of effortless creation for those with ears to hear. Beyond the surface interpretations lies a profound truth. Consciousness creates reality without strain. The divine speaks worlds into existence not through effort but through pure awareness of what is, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Notice the simplicity of this creation. No struggle, no strategizing, no months of planning and effort. Simply the awareness of light, expressed through consciousness, manifesting instantly into form. This is the template for all creation, including yours. The scriptures reveal that you were made in this same image, the image of effortless creator. You were designed to speak your world into existence not through the sweat of anxiety but through the power of assumption, not through doing but through being. How different this is from what we've been taught. The world speaks of manifestation as battle, as conquest, as something to be seized through force of will. Yet the ancient wisdom tells a different story of creation as natural expression, as effortless emergence, as the simple embodiment of what already exists in consciousness. Consider how often Jesus spoke of faith the size of a mustard seed, tiny yet sufficient to move mountains. This wasn't a call to greater effort, but an invitation to recognize the immense power that exists within the smallest shift of consciousness. The mountain moves not because you push against it with all your might, but because you align with the reality where it has already moved. Throughout Scripture we find this pattern repeated. Creation flows from consciousness, not effort. The promised land isn't reached through struggle alone, but through alignment with the promise already fulfilled. The healing doesn't occur through force, but through the recognition of wholeness already present. As your body relaxes deeper into the bed, as your breath finds its natural rhythm, consider what it would mean to create as the divine creates, without strain, without anxiety, without the exhaustion of trying. To simply know that what you desire already exists, and to rest in that knowing until it expresses in your experience. This isn't magical thinking. It's the fundamental principle underlying all creation. Consciousness precedes form. The inner always creates the outer. Your assumptions, held with the quiet confidence of knowing, must express themselves in your reality. Rest in this awareness as sleep gently approaches. You don't need to force your desires into being through clenched teeth and furrowed brow. You need only align your consciousness with their fulfillment, and then watch as the outer world reshapes itself to match your inner knowing. Your power has never been in your effort. It has always been in your awareness, in who you are, not what you do. The first step in releasing the addiction to effort is identifying where energy becomes blocked in your being. These blockages don't require force to remove, only awareness and gentle release. Notice how your body responds when you think of your deepest desires. Does your chest tighten? Does your breath become shallow? Does a subtle anxiety creep into your solar plexus? These physical sensations reveal where you've created resistance through trying too hard. The energy of manifestation flows naturally, like water seeking its level. It doesn't require your force, only your allowance. Yet when you strain toward your desire, when you grasp at it with desperation, you create dams in this natural flow. You interrupt the very current that would bring your manifestation to you. Think of someone who desperately seeks love. Notice how their very desperation creates tension in their being. This tension projects into their reality, pushing away the very connection they seek. Now imagine this same person relaxing into self-love, releasing the desperate need for relationship. Feel how the energy shifts, how space opens for connection to naturally enter. This principle applies to every form of manifestation: the job opportunity, the financial abundance, the creative inspiration, the physical healing. All flow more naturally when you cease trying to force their arrival. As you drift deeper into relaxation, scan your body for areas of tension related to your desires. Perhaps your jaw clenches when you think of financial concerns. Maybe your shoulders tighten when you consider career advancement. Your throat might constrict when you imagine expressing your truth to others. These physical responses aren't random. They're precise indicators of where you've blocked the natural flow of manifestation through excessive effort. They show exactly where you're trying too hard, where you've stopped allowing and started forcing. Now imagine these areas softening, releasing, opening to allow energy to flow freely once again. With each breath, picture the tension dissolving, the blockages clearing, the natural current of manifestation resuming its perfect flow through your being. This isn't about doing more or trying harder. It's about undoing the patterns of resistance you've created through effort. It's about removing the obstacles you've placed in your own path through striving. As sleep begins to embrace you, as your thoughts slow and your body surrenders to rest, continue this gentle release of blockages. Allow your manifestation to flow not through force but through the natural current that has always existed within you. Your desires aren't waiting for more effort. They're simply waiting for you to clear the path you've blocked through trying too hard. Surrender. Perhaps no word is more misunderstood in the context of manifestation. The mind equates surrender with defeat, with giving up, with abandoning your desires. But true surrender is something altogether different. It's not the absence of creation, but its very essence. When you surrender, you don't abandon your desire. You abandon the belief that it must come through your strain. You release not the what, but the how. You trust not that your desire won't manifest, but that it will manifest through pathways far more elegant than your limited mind could devise. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches. When you strive toward your desire, forcing its manifestation through sheer will, notice the constriction, the tension, the subtle anxiety that forms. Now imagine simply surrendering to the natural emergence of your desire, trusting in the perfect unfolding of its expression. Feel the expansion, the openness, the gentle release that comes with letting go. This surrender isn't passive resignation. It's active alignment with forces greater than your individual effort. It's the recognition that you participate in creation, not through strain but through conscious cooperation with the intelligence that orchestrates galaxies. Consider the surfer riding a massive wave. They don't create the ocean's power, they surrender to it, aligning their movements with a force infinitely greater than themselves. In this surrender, they experience not weakness but profound empowerment, moving in harmony with energies they could never control through force. Your manifestations work in much the same way. When you surrender the belief that creation requires your strain, you align with currents of manifestation already in motion. You don't abandon your desire, you simply trust in its natural unfolding rather than forcing its expression through effort. As your body relaxes deeper into the bed, as your mind drifts towards sleep, practice this surrender, not abandoning what you wish to create, but releasing the belief that it must come through your exhaustion. Not giving up on your desire, but giving up the idea that you must struggle to deserve its fulfillment. Feel the subtle but profound shift as you move from trying to allowing, from forcing to flowing. Notice how the very energy of your being transforms when you surrender the need for strain. In this sweet surrender, you don't become less powerful. You tap into power far greater than your individual effort could ever generate. You don't stop creating. You align with the ultimate creative force that has existed since consciousness first emerged from the void. Rest in this awareness as sleep approaches. Your desires don't require your strain. They simply await your surrender to their natural emergence in perfect timing and perfect form. The greatest obstacle to your manifestation has never been external circumstance. It has always been you, standing in your own way, blocking the natural expression of what you desire through excessive effort and control. Consider how often you've complicated what could be simple. The mind loves complexity, believing that creation must involve elaborate strategies and exhausting effort. It distrusts simplicity, suspecting that anything easy must somehow be insufficient or flawed. Yet the fundamental law of manifestation remains elegantly simple. Consciousness creates reality. Your outer world perfectly reflects your inner assumptions. This principle doesn't require your strain to function, only your alignment. Think of times when you've stood in your own way through overcomplication. Perhaps you've analyzed the situation to the point of paralysis, overthinking what could have flowed naturally. Maybe you've created elaborate manifestation routines, believing that more technique would somehow produce better results. Or possibly you've second-guessed your intuition, ignoring the simple knowing that would have guided you effortlessly to your desire. Stepping out of your own way doesn't mean abandoning conscious creation. It means releasing the excess, the overthinking, the overanalyzing, the overcomplicating that blocks rather than enhances your manifestation. Feel what happens in your body when you simplify, when you release the belief that creation must be difficult, when you trust that your desire knows how to find you without your anxious interference. Notice the expansion, the openness, the relief that comes with stepping aside. This stepping aside is not abdication of your creative power. It's the recognition that your power lies not in frantic doing but in conscious being, not in controlling every detail, but in holding the end firmly in mind while allowing the bridge of incidents to form naturally. As your consciousness drifts between wakefulness and sleep, identify where you might be standing in your own way through excessive effort. Where have you complicated what could be simple? Where have you blocked through analyzing what could flow through allowing? Imagine gently stepping aside, removing yourself as the obstacle to your own creation. Picture your desire unfolding naturally, without your anxious interference, guided by an intelligence far greater than your conscious mind could conceive. This stepping aside requires trust that creation continues, even when you cease your striving. Trust that manifestation flows most freely when you release rather than grasp. Trust that your desire knows the perfect path to its fulfillment, without your micromanagement. Rest in this trust as sleep gently approaches. Your manifestations aren't waiting for more complexity, more analysis, more frantic action. They're simply waiting for you to step out of your own way. There exists a state of being so powerful yet so misunderstood, that few ever access its creative potential. The ancient mystics called it divine passivity, not the passivity of inaction but the profound receptivity that allows creation to flow through you rather than from you. In this state you become not the strained architect of your manifestations, but their conscious witness. You shift from making things happen to allowing them to happen through you, from forcing creation to becoming the vessel through which creation naturally expresses. Divine passivity requires strength far greater than effort. It takes courage to release the illusion of control, to trust in the unfolding of your desire without anxious interference. It demands faith to remain in the consciousness of fulfillment without constantly checking, analyzing, and adjusting your creation through force. Consider the artist who reaches a state of flow. In this state, they don't create the art through strain, they become the instrument through which art expresses itself. Technique dissolves into pure inspiration. Effort melts into effortless expression. The painting paints itself through the artist who has mastered divine passivity. This same principle governs the manifestation of your desires. When you struggle and strive, you position yourself outside the natural flow of creation, attempting to force what could simply unfold. When you enter divine passivity, you become one with this flow, allowing your desire to express through you with perfect timing and form. Feel the subtle yet profound difference between these states. When you strive toward your desire, notice the separation, the duality, the gap between you and what you seek. Now imagine entering divine passivity, becoming one with your desire, allowing it to express through you rather than trying to reach it through effort. Feel the unity, the wholeness, the natural alignment that forms. As your body relaxes deeper into the bed, as your mind quiets and your breath slows, practice this divine passivity, not the passivity of giving up, but the receptivity of opening fully to what you've claimed in consciousness. Not the inaction of apathy, but the alert stillness that allows your desire to flow through you without resistance. In this state, you become not less powerful, but more perfectly aligned with the true source of all power. You don't abandon your creative role, you fulfill it in its highest expression. You become not the struggling creator, but creation itself, expressing naturally through the unique vessel of your being. Rest in this awareness as sleep approaches. Your desires don't require your strain, they simply await your divine passivity, your perfect receptivity to their natural expression through you. Beneath the layers of conditioning, beyond the mind's addiction to effort, exists your natural state, the authentic condition of your being before you learn that manifestation requires struggle. This natural state isn't something you need to create through effort. It's something you remember by releasing the illusion that you must strain to exist. In your natural state, creation flows effortlessly because you remain aligned with who you truly are. Like the sun doesn't strain to shine or the bird doesn't force itself to fly, you manifest naturally when you return to your essential nature. The journey of effortless creation isn't about learning new techniques or mastering complex systems. It's about unlearning the patterns that separate you from your natural creative power. It's about remembering what your being knew before your mind forgot. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches. When you strive to manifest from a place of lack, believing you must force your desire into being, notice the constriction, the tension, the subtle anxiety that forms. Now imagine simply expressing from your natural state of wholeness, allowing your desire to flow as the natural extension of who you already are. Feel the expansion, the openness, the relief that comes with authentic being. This alignment with your natural state isn't something you achieve through effort. It's something you allow through surrender to who you already are beneath the conditioning that taught you to strain. Consider how a child exists before they learn to doubt, before they're taught that worth comes through struggle. They don't wake up wondering if they're doing enough to deserve the day. They don't question if they've earned their place in the world. They simply express from their natural state, creating reality through pure being rather than anxious doing. As your consciousness drifts between wakefulness and sleep, allow yourself to remember this natural state. Not through effort, but through the gentle release of what isn't authentic to your being. Not through striving, but through surrendering the patterns that separate you from your essential nature. In this remembering, you don't become someone new. You return to who you've always been beneath the layers of conditioning. You don't gain creative power. You remove the obstacles to power that has always existed within you. Your natural state knows how to create without strain, just as your lungs know how to breathe without instruction and your heart knows how to beat without your conscious management. When you align with this natural state, manifestation flows not because you've mastered some external technique, but because you've remembered your authentic way of being. Rest in this remembrance as sleep gently approaches. Your desires don't require your strain, they simply await your return to the natural state where creation flows without effort, where manifestation occurs not through exhausting doing, but through authentic being. The greatest shift in manifestation occurs not when you perfect your techniques of getting, but when you transform your state of being. This shift moves you from perpetual wanting to the consciousness of having, from reaching for what feels separate to embodying what already exists within you. Notice the energy of wanting, how it creates distance between you and your desire. When you want something, you affirm its absence in your current reality. You position yourself in lack, reaching for what isn't yet yours. This very energy pushes your desire away, even as you strain toward it. Now feel the profound difference when you shift from wanting to being. Instead of reaching for the promotion, you embody the consciousness of already being in that position. Rather than wanting the relationship, you assume the state of already experiencing that connection. Instead of desiring financial abundance, you live from the awareness of wealth already being your reality. This isn't pretending or deceiving yourself. It's aligning with the fundamental principle that consciousness precedes manifestation. What you are in consciousness must express itself in your experience. When you shift from wanting to being, you transform the very root from which your reality grows. Consider how differently you move through the world when you operate from having rather than wanting. When you want health, you focus on symptoms and struggle. When you embody health, you naturally make choices aligned with well-being. When you want success, you strain and stress toward external goals. When you embody success, you naturally express the qualities that attract achievement. As your body relaxes deeper into the bed, as your mind quiets and your breath slows, practice this shift from wanting to being. Not through effort, but through the gentle surrender to what already exists in consciousness. Not through straining to become, but through accepting what you already are. Feel the subtle yet profound difference between I want this and I am this, between I hope to have and I already experience, between reaching for what seems distant and embodying what already exists within you. In this shift, you don't abandon your desire, you fulfill it at the level of cause rather than effect. You don't stop creating, you create from a place of completion rather than lack. You don't give up your manifestation, you claim it in consciousness where all manifestation begins. Rest in this awareness as sleep approaches. Your desires don't manifest through perpetual wanting, they express naturally when you shift from the consciousness of seeking to the consciousness of having, from the energy of effort to the state of embodiment. The consciousness of having carries a distinct energy, a particular feeling tone that signals to your entire being that what you desire already exists as completed reality. This consciousness isn't something you achieve through strain. It's something you allow through the gentle acceptance of what is already yours in the unseen realm. When you truly dwell in the consciousness of having, a profound shift occurs in your nervous system. The anxiety of reaching dissolves into the calm certainty of possession. The tension of wanting melts into the peaceful awareness of completion. You no longer operate from the energy of lack. You express from the fullness of already having received. This shift changes everything, from your subtle energy to your visible behavior. When you live from the consciousness of having the job you desire, you naturally speak, move, and make decisions as the person who already occupies that position. When you dwell in the awareness of already experiencing perfect health, your body begins responding to this consciousness rather than to the previous assumption of illness or limitation. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches. When you strive toward your desire from a place of not having, notice the constriction, the tension, the subtle anxiety that forms. Now imagine simply expressing from the consciousness of already possessing what you seek. Feel the expansion, the openness, the relief that comes with having rather than wanting. This consciousness of having isn't wishful thinking or superficial affirmation. It's alignment with the creative principle that consciousness precedes manifestation. What you hold as completed reality in your awareness must, by universal law, express itself in your experience. Consider how Jesus approached miracles not through the effort of making something happen, but through the consciousness of it already being accomplished. Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me, he said before Lazarus emerged from the tomb. Not please make this happen, but gratitude for what was already completed in consciousness before its physical expression. As your consciousness drifts between wakefulness and sleep, practice dwelling in this awareness of completion, not through strain but through the gentle acceptance of what already exists in the unseen realm, not through forcing but through allowing your consciousness of having to express naturally in your reality. In this state, you don't struggle to make your desire manifest. You simply live from the calm certainty that what you seek already exists as completed fact. You don't exhaust yourself trying to create what feels absent. You rest in the awareness of already possessing what appears to be in the process of unfolding. Rest in this consciousness as sleep gently approaches. Your desires don't manifest through perpetual wanting and striving. They express naturally when you dwell in the consciousness of having, the awareness that what you seek is already yours in the realm where all creation begins. Feeling is the secret. Neville revealed, sharing perhaps the most profound key to effortless manifestation. It isn't your thoughts, your actions, or your words that create your reality. It's the feeling tone that accompanies your consciousness. This feeling doesn't require your strain to function, only your allowance. Consider the difference between mentally affirming abundance while feeling subtle lack, versus simply dwelling in the feeling of wealth without any forced declarations. The first creates internal conflict that blocks manifestation. The second aligns your entire being with the reality you wish to experience. The secret lies not in manufacturing feelings through effort, but in allowing yourself to naturally embody the feeling tone of your desire fulfilled. Not forcing yourself to feel something you don't, but gently surrendering to the feeling that already exists within the state you wish to occupy. Feel what happens in your body when you cease trying to create a feeling and instead allow yourself to sink into it. When you stop pushing toward a manufactured emotion and simply ask, how would I feel if this were already my reality? Notice the expansion, the openness, the relief that comes when feeling flows naturally rather than through force. This natural feeling carries creative power far greater than any emotion you struggle to produce. It aligns your entire being, conscious and subconscious, with the reality you wish to experience. Without internal division, without the conflict between what you affirm and what you truly feel, manifestation flows without resistance. By what feeling could I tell that my desire is fulfilled? This question, asked without strain, guides you to the natural feeling tone of your manifestation. Perhaps it's quiet confidence, peaceful certainty, gentle gratitude, or calm acceptance. Whatever this feeling may be, it exists not as something you must create through effort, but as something you allow through surrender to the state of fulfillment. As your body relaxes deeper into the bed, as your mind quiets and your breath slows, practice allowing rather than forcing this feeling. Not manufacturing emotion through strain, but surrendering to the natural feeling tone that accompanies your desire fulfilled. Feel the subtle yet profound difference between trying to feel something and simply allowing yourself to embody the feeling that already exists within the state you wish to occupy. Between pushing toward a manufactured emotion and resting in the natural feeling of your desire fulfilled. In this allowance, you don't abandon the creative power of feeling. You access it in its most potent form. You don't stop using emotion as the creative force. You simply recognize that true feeling flows naturally when you align with states rather than trying to produce emotions through effort. Rest in this awareness as sleep approaches. Your desires don't manifest through feelings you strain to create. They express naturally when you allow yourself to embody the feeling tone that already exists within the state of fulfillment. Living from the end transforms manifestation from exhausting pursuit to natural expression. This principle invites you not to struggle toward your desire, but to dwell consciously in its fulfillment, allowing your reality to reshape itself around what you've already claimed in awareness. When you live from the end, you reverse the common approach to creation. Instead of working hard to reach a future goal, you assume the consciousness of having already achieved it, allowing your outer world to align with this inner assumption. Instead of moving toward what you want, you live from the awareness that you've already arrived. This approach changes everything from your subtle energy to your visible behavior. When you truly live from the end of having the perfect relationship, you naturally interact with others from a place of fulfillment rather than lack. When you dwell in the consciousness of already experiencing abundant wealth, your financial decisions flow from prosperity rather than scarcity. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches. When you strive toward your desire, constantly checking your progress and adjusting your efforts, notice the constriction, the tension, the subtle anxiety that forms. Now imagine simply dwelling in the consciousness of already having received what you seek. Feel the expansion, the openness, the relief that comes with this gentle certainty. Living from the end isn't pretending or deceiving yourself. It's aligning with the fundamental principle that consciousness precedes manifestation. What you are in consciousness must express itself in your experience. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you transform the very seed from which your reality grows. Consider how differently you move through the world when you live from the end rather than struggling toward it. When you pursue health through effort, you focus on symptoms and treatments. When you live from the consciousness of already being whole, you naturally express wellness in your choices and being. When you strive for success through strain, you exhaust yourself pushing against what feels absent. When you dwell in the awareness of already being successful, you naturally embody the qualities that attract achievement. As your consciousness drifts between wakefulness and sleep, practice living from the end of your desire fulfilled. Not through strain, but through the gentle acceptance of what already exists in consciousness. Not through forcing, but through allowing your assumption to express naturally in your reality. Feel what happens when you cease struggling toward what seems distant and simply dwell in the awareness of it already being yours. When you stop pushing against current circumstances and rest in the consciousness of already experiencing what you desire. In this state, you don't exhaust yourself trying to make your manifestation happen. You simply align with its completed reality in consciousness, allowing your outer world to reshape itself accordingly. You don't strain to reach your desire, you live from the calm certainty that what appears to be in the process of happening is already finished in the realm where all creation begins. Rest in this awareness as sleep gently approaches. Your desires don't manifest through perpetual striving toward their fulfillment. They express naturally when you live from the end, when you dwell in the consciousness of already being what you wish to become, already having what you wish to possess. The subtle art of assumption lies at the heart of effortless manifestation. Your assumptions, the states you occupy without question or doubt, shape your reality more powerfully than any amount of physical effort. These assumptions don't require your strain to function, only your acceptance. Consider how rarely you question your name, your existence, or the ground beneath your feet. You don't wake each morning striving to believe in these realities. You simply assume them without effort or doubt. This same quality of unquestioned acceptance, when directed toward your desires, carries immense creative power. The law of assumption reveals that what you consciously assume as true must express itself in your experience. not through magical thinking, but through the fundamental principle that consciousness shapes reality. Your world reflects not what you want or hope for, but what you assume as completed fact without need for proof or evidence. Feel the difference in your body between believing and assuming. When you merely believe something might happen, notice the subtle doubt, the questioning, the space for uncertainty. Now feel what happens when you simply assume something as already accomplished fact. Feel the quiet certainty, the absence of question, the peaceful knowing that requires no external confirmation. This assumption isn't something you create through strain, it's something you allow through surrender to what you've claimed in consciousness. Not forcing yourself to believe against internal doubt, but gently occupying the state where doubt doesn't exist because what you desire is already yours in awareness. An assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. These words reveal the transformative power of simply assuming your desire as completed reality, not through constant affirmation or exhausting visualization, but through the quiet persistence of dwelling in the state where what you seek already exists as finished fact. As your body relaxes deeper into the bed, as your mind quiets and your breath slows, practice this gentle art of assumption, not straining to believe what feels absent, but simply allowing yourself to dwell in the consciousness where what you seek is already yours without question. Feel the subtle yet profound difference between trying to convince yourself of something and simply assuming it as natural fact, between pushing against doubt and resting in the awareness, where doubt doesn't exist because what you desire requires no evidence or proof, it simply is. In this assumption, you don't abandon conscious creation, you access it in its most potent form. You don't stop directing your consciousness, you simply recognize that assumption carries creative power far greater than any belief you struggle to maintain through effort. Rest in this awareness as sleep approaches. Your desires don't manifest through beliefs you strain to uphold against doubt. They express naturally when you assume them as completed fact in consciousness, when you dwell in the state where what you seek already exists without question or effort. Persistence without strain emerges when you understand the nature of manifestation. This isn't the persistence of constant doing, pushing, striving, exhausting yourself through endless action. It's the gentle persistence of remaining faithful to what you've claimed in consciousness, despite appearances to the contrary. Consider the seed planted in soil. It doesn't strain to become a tree. It doesn't exhaust itself through constant effort. It simply remains where it's planted, naturally expressing its inherent nature despite the darkness that temporarily surrounds it. This is persistence without strain, the faithful embodiment of what already exists in potential, regardless of current appearance. Your manifestations work in much the same way. When you plant the seed of your desire in consciousness, claiming it as already yours in the unseen realm, persistence means simply remaining in this awareness, despite what your senses might temporarily report. Not through exhausting effort, but through gentle faithfulness to what you know is true, despite appearances. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches. When you persist through strain, constantly affirming, visualizing and acting from a place of anxiety, notice the constriction, the tension, the subtle desperation that forms. Now imagine simply remaining faithful to what you've claimed in consciousness, regardless of temporary appearances. Feel the expansion, the openness, the peaceful certainty that comes with this gentle persistence. This persistence without strain doesn't mean you never take action. It means your action flows naturally from the state you occupy, rather than from anxious doing to achieve a distant goal. When you persist in the consciousness of already being wealthy, you naturally make financial decisions aligned with abundance. When you remain faithful to the awareness of already having the perfect relationship, you naturally interact with others from a place of fulfillment. I am the resurrection and the life. These words reveal the essence of persistence without strain, not I will become or I am working toward, but the present embodiment of what already exists in consciousness. Not the anxious persistence of constant doing, but the faithful persistence of unwavering being. As your consciousness drifts between wakefulness and sleep, practice this gentle persistence, not through strain but through the faithful embodiment of what you've claimed as already yours in awareness. Not through forcing but through remaining naturally aligned with the state where your desire is already fulfilled. Feel what happens when you cease struggling to persist through effort and simply remain gently faithful to what you know is true, despite appearances. When you stop pushing against temporary circumstances and rest in the awareness that what you've claimed in consciousness must express itself in your reality. In this state, persistence becomes not exhausting work, but natural expression. You don't strain to maintain your creation, you simply continue being what you wish to experience, having what you wish to possess, regardless of what your senses temporarily report. Rest in this awareness as sleep gently approaches. Your desires don't require your exhausting persistence through strain. They simply await your faithful embodiment of what you've claimed in consciousness, your gentle persistence in being what you wish to experience, despite appearances to the contrary. Divine timing unfolds with perfect precision when you release the need to control through effort. Patient trust in this timing doesn't mean passive waiting. It means active alignment with the natural unfolding of your manifestation without anxious interference. Consider how a symphony unfolds. Each note arrives at precisely the right moment. Not because the composer forces its expression through strain, but because they trust in the perfect timing inherent in the composition itself. This same principle governs the manifestation of your desires. The bridge of incidents that leads to your manifestation has a timing of its own, an elegant unfolding that orchestrates circumstances, people, and events with far greater intelligence than your conscious mind could arrange through effort. When you trust this divine timing, you allow your manifestation to arrive not through force but through perfect alignment with its natural emergence. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches. When you try to control the timing of your manifestation, pushing for immediate results, manipulating circumstances, forcing outcomes through anxiety, notice the constriction, the tension, the subtle desperation that forms. Now imagine simply trusting in the perfect timing of what you've claimed in consciousness, allowing it to unfold according to its own divine rhythm. Feel the expansion, the openness, the peaceful surrender that comes with this trust. This trust in divine timing doesn't mean you abandon your desire or become passive in its creation. It means you recognize that your role lies not in controlling when and how it manifests, but in maintaining the consciousness of its fulfillment while allowing the perfect bridge to form naturally. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. These ancient words reveal the wisdom of divine timing, not the timing you force through strain, but the perfect unfolding that exists when you align with the natural rhythm of creation itself. As your body relaxes deeper into the bed, as your mind quiets and your breath slows, practice this patient trust, not through effort but through the gentle surrender to timing far more perfect than your anxiety could arrange. Not through forcing but through allowing your manifestation to arrive according to its own divine schedule. Feel what happens when you cease struggling to control when and how your desire manifests, and simply trust in the perfect timing of what you've claimed in consciousness. When you stop pushing against the natural rhythm of creation and rest in the awareness that what you seek is already yours, unfolding in perfect sequence and perfect form. In this trust, you don't abandon your creative role, you fulfill it in its highest expression. You don't give up on receiving your desire, you simply recognize that its arrival follows a timing far more elegant than your limited mind could devise through strain. Rest in this awareness as sleep approaches. Your desires don't manifest through your anxious control of timing. They express naturally when you trust in their perfect unfolding, when you allow divine timing to orchestrate their arrival with precision far greater than your effort could arrange. Glimpses of the wish fulfilled arrive as gentle confirmation that what you've claimed in consciousness is already expressing in your reality. These glimpses don't come through strain. They appear naturally when you remain aligned with the awareness of your desire already being yours. Consider how the first green shoot appears above soil, confirming that the seed planted has begun its expression. The gardener doesn't strain to make this shoot appear, they simply recognize it as evidence that what already existed in potential is now manifesting in visible form. This same principle applies to the glimpses that appear as your desire begins expressing in your experience. These glimpses might come as subtle synchronicities, unexpected opportunities, or shifts in how others respond to you. They might appear as new ideas, fortuitous meetings, or small improvements in circumstances. Whatever form they take, they serve not as the fulfillment itself, but as confirmation that fulfillment is already in motion. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches to such glimpses. When you grasp at them anxiously demanding, they immediately expand into complete manifestation. Notice the constriction, the tension, the subtle desperation that forms. Now imagine simply acknowledging them with gentle gratitude, recognizing them as natural confirmation of what's already yours in consciousness. Feel the expansion, the openness, the peaceful certainty that comes with this recognition. These glimpses don't require your strain to transform into complete manifestation. They simply invite your continued alignment with what you've claimed in consciousness, your continued embodiment of the state where your desire is already fulfilled. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. These words reveal the essence of recognizing glimpses, not anxiously demanding immediate complete fulfillment, but peacefully accepting the evidence that what exists in consciousness is already expressing in reality. As your consciousness drifts between wakefulness and sleep, practice this gentle recognition of glimpses, not through strain but through the peaceful acknowledgement of what's already in motion, not through forcing but through allowing these confirmations to strengthen your alignment with what you've claimed as already yours. Feel what happens when you cease demanding immediate complete manifestation and simply appreciate the evidence that fulfillment is already unfolding. When you stop anxiously analyzing these glimpses and rest in the awareness that they naturally confirm what you know is already yours in consciousness, in this recognition you don't abandon your desire's complete fulfillment, you align more perfectly with its natural emergence. You don't settle for partial manifestation, you simply acknowledge the evidence that complete manifestation is already in process, unfolding according to divine timing. Rest in this awareness as sleep gently approaches. Desires don't require your anxious demand for immediate complete expression. They unfold naturally when you recognize the glimpses that confirm what you've claimed in consciousness is already manifesting in your reality. Letting go of how and when represents perhaps the most profound surrender in manifestation. This doesn't mean abandoning your desire, it means releasing your limited concept of how it must come to you and when it must appear. Consider how rarely the bridge of incidents unfolds exactly as you might have imagined. The perfect job opportunity arrives through an unexpected connection rather than the application you anxiously crafted. The ideal relationship forms through circumstances you couldn't have planned rather than the dating strategy you carefully devised. The financial abundance flows through channels you didn't anticipate rather than the specific investment you analyzed for months. When you cling to your limited concept of how and when, you actually block the infinite intelligence that could bring your manifestation through pathways far more elegant than your conscious mind could conceive. You restrict the very power that would express your desire in perfect form and perfect timing. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches. When you try to control exactly how and when your desire must manifest, insisting on particular circumstances, specific timing, certain people or events, notice the constriction, the tension, the subtle anxiety that forms. Now imagine simply releasing this control, trusting in the perfect unfolding of what you've claimed in consciousness without dictating its path. Feel the expansion, the openness, the peaceful surrender that comes with this release. This letting go isn't careless abandonment. It's conscious alignment with creative intelligence far greater than your limited concept of possibilities. It's the recognition that what you truly desire is the essence of your manifestation, not the particular form or timing you might have initially imagined. My thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the scripture, revealing the wisdom of releasing your limited concept of how and when, not because your desire won't manifest, but because it will arrive through pathways that transcend your current imagination. As your body relaxes deeper into the bed, as your mind quiets and your breath slows, practice this gentle release of how and when, not through strain but through the peaceful surrender to unfoldment far more perfect than your anxiety could arrange. Not through forcing but through allowing your manifestation to arrive in ways that might surprise and delight you. Feel what happens when you cease struggling to control the exact path of your manifestation and simply trust in the perfect unfolding of what you've claimed in consciousness. When you stop insisting on particular circumstances and rest in the awareness that your desire knows the perfect way to find you. In this release, you don't abandon your creative role, you fulfill it in its highest expression. You don't give up on receiving your desire, you simply recognize that its arrival follows paths far more elegant than your limited mind could devise through strain. Rest in this awareness as sleep approaches. Your desires don't manifest through your anxious control of every detail. They express naturally when you release your limited concept of how and when you allow infinite intelligence to orchestrate their perfect unfoldment in ways that transcend your current imagination. The bridge of incidents unfolds naturally when you remain faithful to what you've claimed in consciousness. This bridge, the series of events, circumstances, and encounters that lead to the full expression of your desire, doesn't require your strain to form. It emerges naturally when you dwell in the consciousness of already having received what you seek. Consider how a river finds its way to the ocean. It doesn't strain to create the perfect path. It simply flows according to its nature, naturally finding the channels that lead to its destination. This same principle governs the bridge of incidents that leads to your manifestation. This bridge often forms in ways your limited mind could never have conceived or arranged through effort. The perfect opportunity appears through a chance meeting you couldn't have planned. The ideal circumstances form through a sequence of events you couldn't have orchestrated. The precise resources arrive through channels you wouldn't have thought to explore. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches to this bridge. When you try to control every step of the process, manipulating circumstances, forcing events, straining to create the perfect conditions, notice the constriction, the tension, the subtle anxiety that forms. Now imagine simply trusting in the natural formation of this bridge, remaining faithful to what you've claimed in consciousness while allowing the path to form without your anxious interference. Feel the expansion, the openness, the peaceful certainty that comes with this trust. This trust doesn't mean you never take action. It means your action flows naturally as part of the bridge itself, guided by intuition rather than anxiety, aligned with what's already yours rather than straining toward what feels absent. I will go before thee and make the crooked places straight. These words reveal the essence of the bridge that forms naturally, not through your exhausting effort to straighten every path, but through the perfect unfolding that occurs when you remain aligned with what you've claimed in consciousness. As your consciousness drifts between wakefulness and sleep, practice this gentle trust in the natural formation of your bridge. Not through strain but through the peaceful certainty that what you've claimed as already yours must express itself through perfect channels. Not through forcing but through allowing the path to form according to intelligence far greater than your conscious mind. Feel what happens when you cease struggling to create every circumstance of your manifestation and simply trust in the perfect unfolding of what you know is already yours in consciousness. When you stop anxiously manipulating events and rest in the awareness that the bridge forms naturally when you remain faithful to the end already accomplished. In this trust you don't abandon conscious creation, you align with its highest expression. You don't give up on receiving your desire, you simply recognize that the path to its fulfillment forms naturally when you dwell in the consciousness of it already being yours. Rest in this awareness as sleep gently approaches. Your desires don't require your exhausting effort to create the perfect conditions. The bridge of incidents forms naturally when you remain faithful to what you've claimed in consciousness. When you dwell in the awareness of already having received what appears to be in the process of unfolding. Moving beyond social comparison frees your creative power from perhaps its greatest limitation. When you constantly measure your manifestations against others, their timing, their form, their apparent ease or struggle, you block the unique expression that seeks to flow through your particular consciousness. Consider how comparison creates a specific kind of tension in your being. When you see someone manifesting what appears to be the same desire with greater ease or speed, you question your own process. This questioning introduces doubt, and doubt creates resistance to the natural flow of your manifestation. This comparison doesn't exist only with others. It happens when you compare your current manifestation with past experiences, wondering why this desire seems slower to express than ones that came before. It occurs when you compare your actual unfolding with your mental concept of how it should be happening. All these comparisons create the same interference in your creative flow. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches. When you constantly compare your manifestation with others, or with your own concept of how it should unfold, notice the constriction, the tension, the subtle anxiety that forms. Now imagine simply allowing your desire to express through your unique consciousness according to its own perfect timing and form. Feel the expansion, the openness, the peaceful surrender that comes with this release from comparison. This release doesn't mean you never learn from others' experiences. It means you recognize that your manifestation follows a path uniquely yours, perfectly aligned with your particular consciousness, your specific starting point, your unique purpose in this experience. Comparison is the thief of joy. These words reveal the essence of moving beyond social comparison, not because you can't manifest what others have, but because the constant measurement against external standards blocks the unique expression that seeks to flow through your consciousness alone. As your body relaxes deeper into the bed, as your mind quiets and your breath slows, practice this gentle release of comparison, not through strain but through the peaceful acknowledgement that your manifestation follows a path uniquely yours, not through forcing but through allowing your desire to express according to its own perfect unfolding through your particular consciousness. Feel what happens when you cease struggling to match your manifestation to others' experiences, or to your own concept of how it should unfold. When you stop measuring your creative process against external standards and rest in the awareness that what you've claimed in consciousness must express in perfect form and timing through your unique being. In this release you don't abandon conscious creation, you free it from unnecessary limitation. You don't give up on receiving your desire. You simply recognize that its expression through your particular consciousness follows a path as unique as your fingerprint. Rest in this awareness as sleep approaches. Your desires don't require constant measurement against others' experiences. They express naturally when you release the need for comparison, when you allow your manifestation to unfold according to the perfect wisdom inherent in your unique consciousness. Releasing the need for external validation transforms the very foundation of your creative power. When you constantly seek confirmation from outside yourself, needing others to approve your path, validate your choices, or witness your manifestations, you place your creative authority in hands other than your own. Consider how this need creates a specific kind of division in your being. When you require external validation, you split yourself between what you know in consciousness and what others confirm through their approval. This division introduces conflict, and conflict creates resistance to the natural flow of your manifestation. This need for validation doesn't exist only with other people. It happens when you constantly seek evidence in the physical world before fully committing to what you've claimed in consciousness. It occurs when you require repeated confirmation through circumstances before trusting what you know is already yours in awareness. All these forms of seeking external validation create the same interference in your creative flow. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches. When you constantly seek validation from sources outside yourself, notice the constriction, the tension, the subtle anxiety that forms. Now imagine simply trusting what you know in consciousness without requiring external confirmation to believe it's true. Feel the expansion, the openness, the peaceful certainty that comes with this self-authorization. This release doesn't mean you never appreciate confirmation when it appears. It means you recognize that your creative authority resides within your own consciousness, not in the opinions or acknowledgments of others. It means you trust what you know is true without needing constant evidence to maintain this knowing. The kingdom of God is within you. These words reveal the essence of releasing the need for external validation, not because confirmation won't appear in your outer world, but because the true source of creative power already exists within your own consciousness. As your consciousness drifts between wakefulness and sleep, practice this gentle release of needing external validation, not through strain but through the peaceful recognition of your own creative authority, not through forcing but through allowing yourself to trust what you know in consciousness, without requiring constant confirmation from sources outside yourself. Feel what happens when you cease struggling to gather evidence before believing what you've claimed as true. When you stop seeking approval from others and rest in the awareness that what you know in consciousness is already real, expressing itself naturally without requiring external validation to maintain its reality. In this release, you don't abandon discernment. You locate it within rather than without. You don't give up on receiving confirmation. You simply recognize that true confirmation begins in your own consciousness before appearing in your outer world. Rest in this awareness as sleep gently approaches. Your desires don't require constant validation from sources outside yourself. They express naturally when you release this need for external confirmation, when you trust what you know in consciousness without requiring others to approve or acknowledge its reality. Quieting the analytical mind creates space for your manifestation to unfold without the interference of constant evaluation. When your mind continually analyzes, questions, and dissects the process of creation, asking how and when and why your desire hasn't yet fully appeared, you actually block the very intelligence that would express it perfectly. Consider how this analytical approach creates a specific kind of tension in your being. When you constantly evaluate your progress, searching for evidence and measuring results, you position yourself outside the natural flow of creation, attempting to understand through reason what unfolds through alignment. This separation introduces resistance, and resistance blocks the effortless expression of your desire. This analytical interference doesn't exist only in obvious forms. It happens in the subtle questioning that wonders if you're doing it right. It occurs in the constant checking for evidence that asks if your technique is working. It appears in the mental rehearsal of explanations for why your manifestation is or isn't unfolding as expected. All these forms of analysis create the same disturbance in your creative flow. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches. When you constantly analyze the process of your manifestation, evaluating, questioning, measuring progress, notice the constriction, the tension, the subtle anxiety that forms. Now imagine simply allowing the intelligence that creates worlds to express your desire without your anxious interference. Feel the expansion, the openness, the peaceful surrender that comes with this release from constant analysis. This quieting doesn't mean you abandon awareness. It means you recognize that creation unfolds through alignment rather than analysis, through being rather than understanding. It means you trust in the perfect intelligence that expresses your desire without needing to comprehend its every movement. Be still and know that I am God. These words reveal the essence of quieting the analytical mind, not because understanding has no value, but because the constant analysis of creation actually interferes with its natural expression through your consciousness. As your body relaxes deeper into the bed, as your mind quiets and your breath slows, practice this gentle release of analytical thinking, not through strain but through the peaceful surrender to intelligence greater than reason, not through forcing but through allowing your desire to express without the constant interruption of evaluation and questioning. Feel what happens when you cease struggling to understand every aspect of the creative process and simply trust in the perfect unfolding of what you've claimed in consciousness. When you stop analyzing every step and rest in the awareness that what you know is true doesn't require your comprehension to express itself in your reality. In this quieting, you don't abandon consciousness. You access it in its purest form. You don't give up on awareness. You simply recognize that true awareness often exists beyond the realm of analytical understanding. Rest in this awareness as sleep approaches. Your desires don't require your constant analysis to manifest. They express naturally when you quiet the analytical mind, when you allow creation to unfold without the interference of perpetual evaluation and questioning. The courage to receive often proves more challenging than the willingness to create. When your manifestation begins expressing in your reality, appearing as opportunity, relationship, abundance, or any other form, a specific kind of fear can arise that actually blocks its complete fulfillment. This fear doesn't require your strain to dissolve, only your gentle awareness and release. Consider how this fear creates a specific kind of resistance in your being. When your desire begins manifesting, old patterns of unworthiness, doubt, or limitation can surface. The very appearance of what you've claimed in consciousness can trigger the question, do I truly deserve this? This questioning introduces conflict, and conflict blocks the natural completion of your manifestation. This fear of receiving doesn't exist only in obvious forms. It happens in the subtle sabotage that creates problems just as success approaches. It occurs in the mysterious illness that appears right before the interview for your dream position. It manifests in the argument that erupts as the relationship deepens toward commitment. All these expressions of fear create the same interference in your creative flow. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches. When you unconsciously resist receiving what you've consciously created, holding back from full acceptance through subtle patterns of unworthiness, notice the constriction, the tension, the conflicted energy that forms. Now imagine simply opening fully to receive what you've claimed in consciousness, allowing it to express completely in your experience without resistance. Feel the expansion, the openness, the peaceful surrender that comes with this courage to receive. This courage doesn't require strain or force. It simply asks for your gentle awareness of where you might be blocking through fear, and your willing release of these patterns as they arise. It invites you to recognize that receiving fully, allowing your manifestation to express completely, might actually feel more vulnerable than the familiar state of wanting and seeking. For everyone who asks receives, the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks the door will be opened. These words reveal the essence of the courage to receive, not because asking guarantees receiving, but because true asking includes the willingness to open the door when the answer arrives. As your consciousness drifts between wakefulness and sleep, practice this gentle courage to receive, not through strain but through the peaceful release of patterns that block full acceptance of what you've claimed in consciousness. Not through forcing but through allowing yourself to open completely to the manifestation of your desire without unconscious resistance. Feel what happens when you cease struggling against the very fulfillment you've created and simply allow yourself to receive what you've claimed as already yours. When you stop holding back through subtle patterns of unworthiness and rest in the awareness that complete fulfillment is your natural state. In this courage you don't abandon discernment, you release the fear that masquerades as protection. You don't give up on conscious creation, you simply recognize that creation includes not only the claiming of your desire in consciousness, but also the willingness to receive its complete expression in your reality. Rest in this awareness as sleep gently approaches. Your desires don't require your strain to manifest completely, they express naturally when you find the courage to receive, when you allow what you've claimed in consciousness to fulfill itself without the interference of unconscious resistance or fear. Dissolving doubts with present awareness transforms perhaps the most persistent obstacle to manifestation. When doubts arise, questioning if your desire will manifest, if you're worthy of receiving, if your assumption is sufficient, they introduce specific resistance to the natural flow of creation. These doubts don't require your strain to dissolve, only your gentle return to present awareness. Consider how doubt creates a particular kind of division in your being. When you entertain doubt, you split yourself between what you've claimed in consciousness and what you fear might not manifest. This division introduces conflict, and conflict blocks the effortless expression of your desire. This doubt doesn't exist only in obvious forms. It happens in the subtle questioning that wonders if this time will be different. It occurs in the comparison with past attempts that didn't seem to manifest as expected. It appears in the hesitation to fully embody what you've claimed in consciousness because part of you questions if disappointment might follow. All these expressions of doubt create the same interference in your creative flow. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches. When you entertain doubt, allowing it to create division between what you've claimed and what you fear might not manifest, notice the constriction, the tension, the conflicted energy that forms. Now imagine simply returning to present awareness, fully embodying what you know is true in this moment, without concern for future or past. Feel the expansion, the openness, the peaceful certainty that comes with this return to now. This present awareness doesn't require struggle against doubt. It simply invites you to notice when doubt has pulled you from the reality of this moment, and to gently return to what you know is true right now. It recognizes that doubt exists only when you leave the present projecting into a feared future or referencing a limiting past. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. These words reveal the essence of dissolving doubt through present awareness. Not because the future doesn't matter, but because doubt exists only when you leave the reality of this moment to entertain what might or might not happen later. As your body relaxes deeper into the bed, as your mind quiets and your breath slows, practice this gentle return to present awareness. Not through strain, but through the peaceful recognition of what you know is true right now. Not through forcing, but through allowing yourself to fully embody this moment without the division that doubt creates. Feel what happens when you cease struggling with doubts about the future manifestation of your desire, and simply return to the present reality of what you know in consciousness right now. When you stop entertaining fears about what might or might not happen, and rest in the awareness that this moment contains all the creative power you need. In this presence, you don't abandon conscious creation, you access it in its purest form. You don't give up on receiving your desire, you simply recognize that true receiving happens only in the present moment, where doubt cannot exist. Rest in this awareness as sleep approaches. Your desires don't require your struggle against doubt to manifest. They express naturally when you dissolve doubt through present awareness, when you allow yourself to fully embody this moment without division or conflict. The natural state of abundance exists as your birthright, not as something you must strain to achieve. This abundance doesn't require your effort to claim, only your recognition of what already belongs to you through the very nature of your being. Consider how different this perspective is from the common approach to manifestation. Instead of struggling to attract abundance as something separate from yourself, you simply recognize and express the abundance that already exists as your essential nature. Instead of working hard to become abundant, you allow yourself to be what you already are beneath the conditioning that taught you limitation. This natural abundance doesn't exist only in material form. It appears as the inexhaustible creativity that flows when you cease blocking through effort. It manifests as the boundless love that expresses when you stop restricting through fear. It emerges as the infinite intelligence that guides when you release control through trust. All these expressions of abundance exist not as rewards for strain, but as natural qualities of your being. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches. When you strive toward abundance as something you lack and must acquire through effort, notice the constriction, the tension, the subtle anxiety that forms. Now imagine simply recognizing and expressing the abundance that already exists as your essential nature. Feel the expansion, the openness, the peaceful certainty that comes with this recognition. This natural state doesn't require techniques or strategies to access. It simply invites your gentle surrender to what already exists beneath the illusion of limitation. It asks not for your strain to become something new, but for your willingness to release what isn't authentically yours, the conditioning that taught you lack. The belief in separation, the identity built around scarcity. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. These words reveal the essence of your natural state of abundance, not as something you must earn through effort, but as the authentic condition of your being when you release what isn't truly yours. As your consciousness drifts between wakefulness and sleep, practice this gentle recognition of your natural abundance, not through strain but through the peaceful embodiment of what already exists as your essential nature. Not through forcing but through allowing yourself to express the abundance that has always been yours beneath the illusion of limitation. Feel what happens when you cease struggling to attract abundance as something separate from yourself and simply recognize it as the authentic condition of your being. When you stop working hard to become what you already are and rest in the awareness that abundance exists as your birthright, requiring not your effort but your recognition. In this recognition, you don't abandon conscious creation, you align with its highest expression. You don't give up on experiencing abundance, you simply recognize that true abundance flows not from exhausting effort, but from the natural expression of your essential nature. Rest in this awareness as sleep gently approaches. Your desires don't require your strain to manifest abundantly. They express naturally when you recognize your natural state of abundance, when you allow yourself to be what you already are beneath the conditioning that taught you limitation and lack. Your life as an extension of infinite intelligence reveals perhaps the most profound truth of effortless manifestation. This perspective shifts you from struggling creator to conscious expression, from anxious doer to aware vehicle through which creation naturally flows. Consider how this shift transforms your entire approach to manifestation. Instead of making things happen through exhausting effort, you allow them to happen through conscious alignment with the intelligence that creates worlds. Instead of forcing your desire into being through strain, you recognize that what you truly seek already exists within the infinite, expressing naturally when you align with its consciousness. This recognition doesn't position you as passive observer. It reveals you as conscious participant in creation that flows through rather than from you. It invites you to release the limited identity that strains to manifest, and to embody instead the awareness through which manifestation naturally expresses. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches. When you position yourself as separate creator struggling to force your desires into being through individual effort, notice the constriction, the tension, the subtle anxiety that forms. Now imagine recognizing yourself as the extension of infinite intelligence, the unique expression through which creation naturally flows when you align with its consciousness. Feel the expansion, the openness, the peaceful alignment that comes with this recognition. This shift doesn't diminish your creative role. It elevates it beyond the limitations of individual striving. It doesn't reduce your importance in manifestation. It aligns you with creative power far greater than your personal effort could ever generate. I am the vine. You are the branches. These words reveal the essence of your life as extension rather than separate creator. Not because you lack creative power, but because your true power flows not from individual strain but from conscious alignment with the source of all creation. As your body relaxes deeper into the bed, as your mind quiets and your breath slows, practice this gentle recognition of your life as extension, not through strain but through the peaceful awareness of your connection to infinite intelligence. Not through forcing but through allowing creation to flow through the unique expression of your consciousness. Feel what happens when you cease struggling as separate creator and simply recognize yourself as the extension through which infinite intelligence naturally expresses. When you stop exhausting yourself through individual effort and rest in the awareness that creation flows most powerfully when you align with its source. In this recognition, you don't abandon your unique role in creation, you fulfill it in its highest expression. You don't give up on manifesting your desires, you simply recognize that they express most naturally when you align with the intelligence that creates through rather than from you. Rest in this awareness as sleep approaches. Your desires don't require your exhausting effort as separate creator. They express naturally when you recognize your life as extension of infinite intelligence, when you allow creation to flow through the unique expression of your consciousness without the interference of strain. Being the observer of your manifestations invites a profound shift in your relationship with creation. This perspective moves you from anxious participant to conscious witness, from someone desperately trying to make things happen to someone peacefully allowing them to unfold. Consider how this shift transforms your experience of manifestation. Instead of constantly checking progress, analyzing process, and adjusting technique, you simply observe the natural unfolding of what you've claimed in consciousness. Instead of interfering through anxiety, you witness through awareness, allowing your desire to express without the disturbance of perpetual assessment. This observation doesn't mean passive detachment. It means conscious witnessing from the state of already having received. It invites you to observe not from wondering if your desire will manifest, but from the peaceful certainty that what you've claimed in consciousness is already expressing in perfect form and timing. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches. When you position yourself as anxious participant, constantly evaluating and adjusting the process of your manifestation, notice the constriction, the tension, the subtle interference that forms. Now imagine simply observing the natural unfoldment of what you've claimed in consciousness, watching with peaceful certainty as your desire expresses in perfect form and timing. Feel the expansion, the openness, the gentle allowing that comes with this observation. This witnessing doesn't diminish your creative role. It fulfills it in its highest expression. It doesn't reduce your consciousness in manifestation. It aligns you with the natural process of creation without the interference of anxiety. When I consider thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars which thou hast ordained, what is man that thou art mindful of him? These words reveal the essence of being observer rather than anxious participant. Not because you lack importance in creation, but because your true role involves conscious witnessing rather than anxious interference. As your consciousness drifts between wakefulness and sleep, practice this gentle observation of your manifestations, not through strain but through the peaceful witnessing of what naturally unfolds. Not through forcing but through allowing yourself to observe without the interference of anxiety or constant assessment. Feel what happens when you cease struggling as anxious participant and simply become the observer of your manifestations. When you stop constantly evaluating and adjusting and rest in the awareness that what you've claimed in consciousness is already expressing perfectly, requiring not your interference but your witnessing. In this observation, you don't abandon conscious creation, you align with its natural process. You don't give up on receiving your desire. You simply recognize that it expresses most perfectly when you allow yourself to witness its unfoldment without anxious interference. Rest in this awareness as sleep gently approaches. Your desires don't require your constant assessment and adjustment to manifest. They express naturally when you become the observer of your manifestations, when you allow yourself to witness their perfect unfoldment from the consciousness of already having received. Gratitude as your natural state transforms manifestation from anxious pursuit to peaceful recognition. This gratitude doesn't exist as technique or strategy. It emerges as the authentic response to recognizing what already exists as yours in consciousness. Consider how different this gratitude is from the common approach. Instead of using appreciation as method to attract what feels absent, you simply recognize and express gratitude for what already exists as completed reality in consciousness. Instead of thanking for what you hope will come, you express gratitude for what you know is already yours, unfolding naturally in perfect form and timing. This natural gratitude doesn't require your strain to maintain. It flows spontaneously when you align with the awareness that what you desire already exists as yours in consciousness. It emerges not through effort but through recognition of what is already completed in the realm where all creation begins. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches. When you use gratitude as technique, forcing appreciation for what doesn't yet feel real in attempt to attract it, notice the subtle inauthenticity, the strain, the tension that forms. Now imagine simply expressing gratitude that flows naturally from recognizing what's already yours in consciousness. Feel the expansion, the openness, the peaceful certainty that comes with this authentic appreciation. This natural gratitude doesn't function as manifestation technique. It exists as the appropriate response to recognizing reality as it truly is, not limited to current appearance but inclusive of what exists in consciousness as completed fact. It flows not from hope for future fulfillment but from awareness of present completion already unfolding in perfect sequence. In everything give thanks, for this is the will concerning you. These words reveal the essence of gratitude as natural state rather than manifestation strategy. Not because appreciation functions as technique to attract, but because gratitude naturally flows from recognizing what already exists as yours in the realm where all creation begins. As your body relaxes deeper into the bed, as your mind quiets and your breath slows, practice this gentle expression of natural gratitude, not through strain but through the peaceful recognition of what's already yours in consciousness. Not through forcing but through allowing appreciation to flow naturally as response to what you know is true despite appearances. Feel what happens when you cease struggling to manufacture gratitude as manifestation technique and simply allow it to emerge as natural response to what you recognize as already complete. When you stop forcing appreciation to attract what feels absent and rest in the awareness that gratitude flows spontaneously when you align with what's already yours in consciousness. In this expression, you don't abandon the creative power of gratitude, you access it in its most potent form. You don't give up on appreciation's role in manifestation, you simply recognize that true gratitude functions not as method to attract but as natural response to what already exists as completed reality in consciousness. Rest in this awareness as sleep approaches. Your desires don't require your strained gratitude to manifest. They express naturally when appreciation flows as your natural state, when you allow gratitude to emerge spontaneously from recognizing what already exists as yours in the realm where all creation begins. The eternal cycle of effortless creation reveals the fundamental rhythm of all manifestation. This cycle doesn't require your strain to function. It flows naturally when you align with its perfect movement through conscious cooperation rather than anxious interference. Consider how this cycle moves through specific phases. From initial desire to conscious claim, from faithful embodiment to natural expression. Like the seasons that shift without effort, each phase of manifestation unfolds perfectly when you align with its movement, rather than forcing its progression through strain. This cycle doesn't begin with your wanting and end with your receiving. It exists as eternal movement, each manifestation flowing naturally into the next, each fulfillment revealing new desires, each completion initiating new creation. When you recognize this eternal nature, you release the anxiety that comes from believing each desire represents desperate need, rather than natural evolution of consciousness. Feel the difference in your body as you consider these two approaches to creation. When you view each desire as isolated need, something you lack and must strain to acquire, notice the constriction, the tension, the subtle desperation that forms. Now imagine recognizing each desire as natural phase in eternal creation, not desperate lack but perfect evolution of consciousness expressing through you. Feel the expansion, the openness, the peaceful flow that comes with this recognition. This eternal cycle doesn't demand your anxious management. It invites your conscious participation through alignment rather than interference. It doesn't require your strain to progress. It asks only for your awareness of its natural movement and your willing cooperation with its perfect unfolding. For I am about to do something new. See, I have already begun. Do you not see it? These words reveal the essence of eternal creation. Not as series of desperate needs you must fulfill through strain, but as perfect evolution of consciousness eternally expressing through your awareness. As your consciousness drifts between final wakefulness and approaching sleep, practice this gentle recognition of eternal creation, not through strain but through the peaceful awareness of perfect cycle flowing through your consciousness, not through forcing but through allowing yourself to participate consciously in creation that has neither beginning nor end, only eternal expression. Feel what happens when you cease struggling with each desire as isolated need, and simply recognize it as natural phase in eternal creation. When you stop viewing manifestation as desperate reaching for what you lack and rest in the awareness that each desire represents not absence but evolution, consciousness eternally expressing through the unique vessel of your awareness. In this recognition, you don't abandon conscious creation. You align with its highest expression. You don't give up on receiving your desires. You simply recognize that they exist not as evidence of lack but as natural evolution of consciousness eternally creating through your awareness. Rest in this final awareness as sleep gently embraces you. Your desires don't require your strain to manifest. They express naturally when you recognize the eternal cycle of effortless creation, when you allow yourself to participate consciously in manifestation that flows without beginning or end, eternally expressing through the perfect vessel of your unique consciousness. In this peaceful knowing, let sleep carry you into the realm where all creation begins, where what you've claimed in consciousness continues its perfect unfoldment, even as your awareness shifts from waking to dreaming. Your manifestation doesn't require your constant vigilance. It continues expressing perfectly as you surrender to the natural rhythm of rest and renewal, the same rhythm that governs all effortless creation. You are not the exhausted maker of your reality. You are the conscious embodiment of creation itself, expressing effortlessly when you align with its natural flow rather than blocking through strain. Rest now in this perfect awareness, allowing sleep to deepen your alignment with the effortless creation that continues eternally, with or without your anxious interference. Your desires know how to find you without your exhaustion. They express naturally when you release the belief that manifestation requires your strain. Sleep now in this peaceful certainty, knowing that creation continues even as you rest, unfolding perfectly according to what you've claimed in consciousness without demanding your constant effort or anxious attention. The less you try, the more naturally you create. The less you strain, the more perfectly you manifest. The less you exhaust yourself through effort, the more effortlessly your desires express. Rest in this awareness as consciousness shifts from waking to dreaming, knowing that what you seek is already seeking you, requiring not your strain but your surrender to the perfect unfolding that has always been your birthright.